Welcome back to World Talks on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Angry Ukrainians have rallied in central Kyiv, Lviv and other major cities on Ukraine after the parliament voted to remove the independence of key anti-corruption agencies, a move criticized by EU Commissioner for Enlargement Marta Kos as a setback for democracy. A day prior to the vote, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau officials were arrested for alleged collusion with Russian operatives, raising concerns about public trust in the government. To understand the motivation behind this clearly political action and to elaborate on the implications it might have for the pro-EU path Ukraine wishes to pursue, I'm joined now by Daria Kaleniuk, Executive Director, Anti-Corruption Action Center. Good morning, madam, and thank you for being with us this morning. So
Good morning. Good to be here.
Yes, and first let's understand what are the NABU and SAPO institutions, when and with what purpose were they founded?
National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine and Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecution Office are two agencies which were created 10 years ago in Ukraine after the Revolution of Dignity. This was a response on the demands which people of Ukraine have had in 2013, 2014 against top corruption of, in that time, pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych. So basically, these institutions were created in order to guarantee that there is no untouchable people in Ukraine who can steal freely from the state and from Ukrainian taxpayers' money, and that these high officials who are corrupt can be persecuted, can be investigated, can be jailed. We have been building these institutions since 2014, and they have proven to be quite successful and able to bring charges against members of parliament, corrupt prosecutors, judges, even high-level intelligence officers in Ukraine, and close associates of President Zelenskyy. The most recent case was charges against former Vice Prime Minister Oleksiy Chernyshov, who is close to family of Zelenskyy and the First Lady. And that was the trigger for Volodymyr Zelenskyy to get rid of NABU and SAPO. The 80 searches without court warrants conducted on Monday against NABU under pretext of looking for Russian spies, and follow up a very speedy adoption of the law which destroys independence of these agencies. That was the clear will of the President Zelenskyy, who simply doesn't want to have these independent anti-corruption institutions which are able to investigate untouchable people in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. So the Verkhovna Rada passed the bill which places NABU and SAPO under the Prosecutor's General Office, effectively within the President's purview. Volodymyr Zelenskyy signed the bill, explaining it was a necessary move. But what implications stem from this decision?
It was not a necessary move. We have had such a situation in Ukraine when the Prosecutor General was able to open any criminal case against anybody and could interfere into any investigation of any agency. We've seen that during the Yanukovych era. And that was the captured state in Ukraine with authoritarian methods of ruling the country and with large-scale corruption. The people of Ukraine didn't accept that and were fighting against. And people were dying for changes. And also, these two institutions, they were fundamental for our progress towards the EU accession. We have been proud that these institutions keep working disregarding large-scale invasion. And it was one of the fundamental arguments to speed up EU accession talks between Ukraine and the EU. Ukraine received EU candidacy status, and then we are now coming to opening up clusters, including the cluster on fundamentals. But after the demolishment of these institutions, EU track is paralyzed. because the foundations on which all this progress was built have been destroyed yesterday by Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
You say the EU track is paralyzed. Do you believe this move will slow down the EU integration process?
Absolutely. I'm convinced that this is going to happen. I've seen so many documents between Ukraine and the EU where basically NABU and SAPO were praised for progress. Basically their success stories meant to be replicated into other agencies which are still non-reformed, like Bureau of Economic Security. And we have had independent selection with the independent commission 2 weeks ago of the director of Bureau of Economic Security. However, a cabinet of ministers, in violation of the law, didn't appoint that person. Again, that was the execution of the will of President Zelenskyy, who doesn't want independent law enforcement agencies. He needs to control everything through one person, his prosecutor general. So I'm quite convinced that it stalls our EU accession.
Ukrainian society was quick to judge, as I said before. The vote has been seen as a move backward, and there's a quote here: "We've been fighting for the independence of the institution since 11 years now," say some of the protesters. So it could remind a pre-Yanukovych era in a second Maidan scenario. Do you think this is possible?
Honestly, I have deja vu of November 2013, when President Yanukovych refused to sign EU association agreement, and that caused and triggered all these large-scale rallies and protests and the revolution of dignity. And Yanukovych had to run away from Ukraine towards Russia and Rostov-na-Donu, and important reforms have started since then. But also Russia started invasion in 2014 and occupied Crimea and parts of Donbas. So all these internal clashes and instability in Ukraine and rolling back reforms, rule of law and anti-corruption reforms, all that plays well for Russian narratives, and Kremlin is absolutely happy. I think they are, applauding of what is happening. And I don't know why Volodymyr Zelenskyy doesn't understand that he is actually helping his enemy to cut aid from Ukraine and to destabilize Ukraine from inside, to break our unity.
Definitely a difficult situation internally for Volodymyr Zelenskyy and all of Ukraine. Thank you so much, Daria Kaleniuk, Executive Director, Anti-Corruption Action Center.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching World Talks on TVP World. Please stay tuned for more interesting commentaries and other info.